Thank you, Anton, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am very, very honored to be with you. I want to thank Anton in particular for his friendship over the last 25 years. And I want to acknowledge this morning the founder of the Pupkewitz Group, Mr. Harold Pupkewitz. I met him in the late 70s for the first time. Established an excellent relationship with him, learned a lot from him, and I therefore want to dedicate this talk to the memory of Mr. Harold Pupkewitz, an outstanding business leader, uh, a unique person from many, many points of view. So, Anton, you asked me to talk about effective leadership in tough times. It's quite a tough assignment for me to talk about effective leadership because the answers aren't always crystal clear. Am I equipped to give you some advice? Anton referred to it earlier. I've been in business for 47 years. I'm sure I'm the oldest of all the participants in this webinar. I learned a little bit at Toyota, where I spent 22 wonderful years, and everything kept going right. So I learned a little bit from success. The Japanese word for little is skoshi. So that's what I learned at Toyota. And then, as Anton alluded to, I joined the McCarthy Group in 1995. It was a blue chip company. It was a very diversified group, very similar, in fact, to the Pupkewitz Group. We sold building material and furniture and clothing on credit into the lower end of the market. But my key responsibility was to look after the motor division. Unfortunately, towards the end of the 1990s, the Prefco or non-motor division of McCarthy imploded. And the result was, as Anton mentioned very briefly, that the group was declared insolvent at the beginning of 2001. I will never forget those days because the board then asked me to take over as chief executive of the holding company, McCarthy Retail Limited. We had 15,000 employees, 1,100 retail outlets. The share price had plummeted from 21 Rand to 18 cents. And we owed 8 banks 1.5 billion Rand. It took 3 years to turn the group around. And during that period, I learned about my faith. I learned about leadership. I learned about management. I also learned about the power of the human spirit. And thanks to the grace of God and to a lot of hard work, we restored the group to profitability over a 3-year period. In the year 2004, we made an operating profit of just over 400 million Rand, and the balance sheet was debt-free. So what I'm going to share with you today, I didn't read about in a book. I wrote a book about it. I'm going to share with you in humility, but with conviction, not only what I learned, but also what I stand for and what I believe in. And it's my sincere hope that you will find something of value in what I'm going to share with you. I know that, and I'm assuming that virtually all of you are going through an exceedingly tough time. And for those entrepreneurs who are listening and other business people, my heart goes out to you. The current environment is severe. Whether we look at the world or Namibia or South Africa, this is the worst economic recession in more than 100 years. The experts don't even know what shape the recovery is going to take and when it's going to take place. Is it going to be L-shaped or U-shaped or V-shaped or W-shaped? The only thing we know is that times are exceedingly tough. Rationalization is already happening. Consolidation is happening. New partnerships are being forged. And it's not only tough economic conditions, we also have to deal simultaneously with the impact of the technology tsunami. The fourth industrial revolution has been pulled forward. Over the last 4 or 5 months, we've learned to live digitally. We've seen in front of our eyes the real, the biological, and the digital worlds merging. We're starting to see the impact of the Internet of everything. We have moved into an era of unprecedented connectivity and processing power. And our customers, all of them virtually, are digitally armed with unlimited access to the internet and social media, and they want it all. A tough, a volatile, an unpredictable and ambiguous environment. So what are my conclusions? Conclusion number 1 is that it's almost impossible to predict the future because certainty is in short supply. What we know is that the future is not going to be an extension of the past. Yesterday's success won't guarantee tomorrow's achievements. In fact, the shelf life of success has collapsed. The business environment is characterized by disruption. Things have never changed more significantly, more regularly, and more quickly than what the case is today. So what is our challenge? As business people, we have to transform in order to fit into this new environment. And simultaneously, we have to perform because competition is intensifying. So we can't just press the button pause and then after a little while resume. For the majority of the businesses, we have to press reset and reboot because it's almost a new world that we are entering. And this is not a storm that is going to pass. You've heard it before. This is the new normal. We can't wait for the storm to pass. We have to learn to dance in the rain. But there's a positive side. Should we deal with this crisis correctly? Should we succeed in making our businesses future-proof? Should we succeed in ensuring that our products and services remain relevant and unique and competitive, this current period can create a springboard for outstanding success in future. It can be used as a catalyst to reposition the business and to change it and to ensure that it's ready to flourish in the post-COVID area. What will be the critical success factor? What will determine whether we are going to transform and perform successfully? The critical success factor I'm referring to is the quality of leadership. John Maxwell stated it so clearly. He said, everything rises and falls on leadership. I tend to liken leadership to electricity. So, where there's power failure, where there's poor leadership, it's the same as having a power outage. The followers will be in the dark, without direction, without hope, disengaged, demotivated, and they will deliver poor results. But the opposite is also true. Where there's quality leadership, the electricity is on, the lights are shining brightly. People are motivated, inspired, they have a clear direction, they are engaged. They will do their best. So, leadership, in my opinion, represents the most potent competitive advantage that any business can ever have. The quality of leadership of self is the source of every great achievement. The quality of leadership of self is the bedrock of every extraordinary life. That's how important, how critical leadership is. So what is the desired outcome of effective leadership? The other day, I spoke to a group of MBA students, and the one said to me, the outcome of effective leadership is that my followers will execute my instructions to the T. They will do exactly what I tell them to do. And I said to this MBA student, that's not leadership. That's dictatorship. That's oppression. If we are effective leaders, we get our people to accept and to strive towards the attainment of the same vision. They will follow the leader in his or her efforts to attain that vision. They will behave in line with the organization's core values. But this is the real test. If you're an effective leader, your people will volunteer every drop of intelligence and energy. They will volunteer their loyalty and their contribution. If you're leading effectively, your people will accept co-responsibility. You will see compelling evidence of syndicated leadership. And yes, they will then deliver outstanding results. So effective leaders reframe the world of work. The world of work becomes a place where employees can fulfill their passion. Effective leaders create a working environment where people feel appreciated, acknowledged, respected, trusted, motivated. Where there's effective leadership, humanity in the workplace flourishes, and performance and productivity and results follow. Is it easy to get to that point where people volunteer their energy and their intelligence and their loyalty and their contribution? No, it's not. Because leadership is both an art and a science. Human behavior is sometimes unpredictable. Just an interesting statistic to amplify how difficult it is to lead effectively. Over 14 million books have been written about leadership. It's now 14 million and one because I also wrote one. But it shows very clearly that people are still looking for answers. So what did I learn? Anton asked me to talk about effective leadership in tough times. So what did I learn in tough times? What was the recipe that I tried to apply at both Toyota and in particular at McCarthy? Effective leadership of others starts with the effective leadership of self. The long and the short of the story is if you can't lead yourself effectively, you won't even get out of the starting blocks leading other people. Effective leadership of self starts with how you choose to lead your life. What is the amount of purpose that you invest in everything you do, everything you say, every second of every day? It's a deliberate choice that you need to make. Are you going to lead a purposeful life? Are you going to inject the maximum amount of purpose into your leadership task? How are you going to present yourself to life? Are you going to show up? Are you going to speak up? Are you going to live it up? Other components of the effective leadership of self is if you want to be successful and effective, you need a high level of moral intelligence. You must know what is right and what is wrong. You require a high level of emotional intelligence because we will continue to work under enormous pressure, and effective leaders need the ability to understand and manage and control their own emotions. You need to be adaptable. You need to be creative. You need to apply self-discipline to do what you have to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. And in terms of self-leadership skills, you need perseverance. Today is the 13th of August. The 13th of August will always be a very special date in my life. Because on the 13th of August in the year 2001, a critical meeting took place that would determine the future of the McCarthy Group. For the first time, on the 13th of August 2001, we managed to get all the credit managers and all the legal advisors of the 8 banks we owed 1.5 billion rand to into one boardroom. And the objective of that meeting on the 13th of August was to try and convince the banks to sign a debt restructuring agreement. If they signed it, then McCarthy would be in a position to continue trading. And if they refused, that would have meant the bankruptcy of the McCarthy Group. The meeting kicked off at 9 o'clock in the morning, and many a time during the course of that day, 1 or 2 or more of the credit managers jumped up and stormed out and said, "We are not going to be party to this agreement." But we persevered. On a number of occasions, I ran after a credit manager or a legal advisor, took the person by the arm, brought him or her back into the meeting. Eventually it was lunchtime, then 5 o'clock in the afternoon, then 7 o'clock in the evening, then midnight. At 2 o'clock in the morning, that agreement was signed and the McCarthy Group survived. Perseverance is a critical component of the art and the science of leading oneself. Second lesson that I learned when it came to effective leadership is if you want to lead effectively, you must have the right mindset. And that entails that you should see leadership not as a right, but as a responsibility. Some people think when they get promoted that they now have the right to lead. Leadership is not a right. Every day you have to earn the moral mandate to lead. Leadership is a privilege. Leadership is an honor. Third lesson I learned is that leadership has got nothing to do with power and position and authority, but leadership has got everything to do with influence, and influence needs to be earned. In terms of the new paradigm of leadership, influence comes from something a lot deeper than just positional power. It comes from the power of your ideals, the strength of your spirit, your humanity, your ability to capture the hearts and the minds of your people. Fourth lesson I learned is that there's a big difference between leading people and managing people. And in my experience, the majority of teams are overmanaged and under-led. So what is leadership? Leadership is about faith and passion and people and purpose. Leadership is about giving direction. Leadership is about having the courage to go first. And management is about planning and organizing and coordinating and controlling the activities of your people. So leadership is of critical importance when it comes to providing direction and motivation and inspiration, and management is of critical importance when it comes to effective execution. Leaders focus on the future. Managers focus on today. Leaders drive change and transformation, and managers maintain. Leaders focus on people, managers on systems and processes and productivity and activities. Leadership is attitude-based. Management is skills and knowledge-based. Leaders trust. Managers micromanage and control. What tends to happen, in particular in tough times, is that we only manage because the operational pressure is so severe. So my recommendation to you is make time to lead. Leadership creates the magic. Next lesson I learned is that you can't lead on autopilot or by emulating somebody else. You have to develop and embrace your own authentic leadership approach or leadership philosophy. So what are the alternatives? Alternative one is just be the boss. Put the fear of God into your people. Intimidate them. Instruct them. And if they don't do their jobs, fire them. Does autocratic leadership still work? It's become laughably ineffective. You only get reluctant compliance, no real commitment, very poor level of engagement. Autocratic leadership is the mortal enemy of energy and motivation. So what are the options? The academics talk about visionary transformational leadership, getting your people to buy into the same vision and involving them, respecting them, trusting them. Yes, that's a big step forward. But I think there's an even better way, in particular in tough times, and I'm referring to servant leadership. To lead is also to care and to serve. Before you can ask for a hand, you need to touch a heart. People respond, in my experience, much better to love than to fear. What I discovered, in particular during the tough times at McCarthy, is the more I cared, the more I tried my best to serve my people, the harder they worked, the more committed they became. You can be bold as a leader without being a bully. You can be firm but fair. You can be gentle but fearless. You can be rigorous when it comes to results, but not ruthless when it comes to people, and you can be kind without being weak. So the concept of caring and serving one's people and the achievement of great results, those two concepts aren't mutually exclusive. I want to say again, the more you care, the more you're willing to serve, the more engaged, the more committed your people will become. And should the leader care and serve, then the followers will start caring and serving one another. And this is what I observed. If you apply a caring philosophy horizontally in your organization, your own people will apply it vertically as well and they will care about your customers and they will serve your customers. So servant leadership makes a lot of business sense. Next lesson I learned is that ethical leadership is a prerequisite for effective leadership. Integrity is the crucial currency of leadership. Leadership is not about charisma, leadership is about character. Leadership is not about personality, leadership is about principles. Leadership is not a way of behaving, it is a way of being. Leaders who don't behave with integrity won't be trusted. And if people don't trust you, you will have no influence over them. And if you have no influence, you will be unable to lead. Trust is the foundational value of effective leadership. Many years ago, one of my bosses or leaders said to me, "Bront, do you have clarity regarding the principles and the values you believe in and stand for?" And I said, "Mr. Porter, yes, I think I have." He said, "Have you put together your own personal code of conduct?" And I said, "No, sir, I haven't." And he said, "I recommend that you do." So it was in the year 1978. And I woke up early one Sunday morning and sat outside on the stoop and wrote down the principles and the values that I hold dear. Principles like consistency, integrity, fairness, justice. Values like openness and honesty and sincerity, the value of caring, the value of teamwork, the value of excellence in everything one does. If you haven't done it yet, I recommend it to you, because the leaders I respect and admire, they anchor their decisions and their behavior in the principles and the values they believe in, and I try to do the same thing. Last few lessons. Effective leaders are visible and accessible. There's nothing more demotivating than an absent, invisible, inaccessible leader who hides behind an office door or an avalanche of emails. There's no substitute for the power of presence. Many years ago, I met one of the most successful Toyota executives from an international perspective, Mr. Togo, who headed up Toyota USA. And I asked him, "Togo-san, give me the reasons for your success." And the first one he gave me was the following. He said, "Over all these years in the US, my shoes have been my office. Get around, in tough times in particular, be with your people." And I know the COVID circumstances are quite unique, but your people must sense your closeness. Next lesson. Effective leaders are good communicators. They have the ability to give information meaning. They have the ability to influence, to persuade, to inspire, and to motivate. So to the young leaders who are listening to this presentation, Hone your communication skills. Next lesson I learned. The cutting edge or the acid test of leadership is to translate vision into reality, to deliver results, to get the job done. Leadership is not defined by the attributes you have. Leadership, the effectiveness of your leadership will be measured through your results. That is what it's all about. Hone your execution skills. Make sure that you get things done. Last lesson that I want to share with you. The famous French military general Napoleon said, leaders deal in hope. And that's so true today. Because of the tough economic circumstances, the impact of COVID-19, the tremendous uncertainty, there's a huge hope deficit. Or let me put it more strongly, an acute shortage of hope. Hope is of critical importance. Nelson Mandela, in his book A Long Walk to Freedom, spoke about the power of hope. As you know, he was locked up for 27 years. He said, hope is life itself. Helen Keller put it so beautifully. She said, hope sees the invisible, hope feels the intangible, and hope achieves the impossible. We need to achieve in our businesses almost the impossible. To those of you who are leaders, you can't give hope if you don't have hope. And hope, in my opinion, is also a verb. As leaders, we need to give hope. When McCarthy was bankrupt, that was my primary responsibility, to give my people hope that tomorrow would be better than today. But just to talk about hope was not enough. I had to demonstrate to them that we had a plan. I had to demonstrate to them that we took initiative every day. Every little victory we celebrated. Every inch of progress we made, we told them about. So, let's complain less, criticize less, get more involved, give more, and do more. We have to keep hope alive. Effective leaders are not afraid of the future. They give the future a firm handshake, and they still retain a positive vision. I want to conclude. I think our time is almost up. I spoke about the tough environment we are in at present. I drew some conclusions. I outlined the challenge of performing and transforming simultaneously. I painted a picture of what the outcome should be of effective leadership. And I shared with you some lessons I learned. I want to amplify again the importance of leadership. It turns weaknesses into strengths, obstacles into stepping stones, and despondency into hope. I use the electricity analogy, and I want to tell you a last little story. Some years ago, I visited a very successful motor dealer in Australia, a gentleman with the name of John Hughes. We visited his branches. That evening over dinner, I said to John, I saw so much evidence today of enthusiastic, committed people. When you interacted with your people, I only saw broad smiles and bright eyes. I could sense their energy and their enthusiasm. John, what is your leadership philosophy? How do you do it? And John said the following to me, and I want you to remember what John said, and to remember it not only today, but every day. He said, Brant, I am the light switch every morning. When I walk into my business, I look my people in the eye. I involve them. I empower them. I trust them. I train them. I coach them. I care about them. He said, Brant, to be frank with you, I just love my people. Be deliberate in your efforts to be the light switch every morning, there in Windhoek, there in Namibia, wherever you are. How can one remain an effective light switch? We'll remain effective light switches provided we lead and not mislead. We'll remain light switches should we develop the capacity to care and the willingness to serve. Should we suppress our egos and build our characters? Should we prize truth and results and respect and service above power and position and self-importance and self-enrichment? We should stand for the truth, for the affirmation of the good. Effective leaders do the right things when it comes to principles and values. And then they do the right things right when it comes to effective execution. And how will we know that we've become effective, inspirational leaders? When through our example, we inspire our people to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and even to become more. I want to wish each and every one of you every success, all the fulfillment with your leadership challenge. Anton, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm willing to take questions, provided the questions aren't complicated. The complicated questions I'll refer back to you, but should we still have time, I'll respond to questions with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brant. As always, yeah, so much. It's almost overwhelming, the amount of information and your experiences that you shared with us. Maybe a first question is, how does one keep yourself positive? You rightfully said that it all starts with self-leadership. And it's unfortunate that negative news are the first news to sell out. And in today's world where we are bombarded with instant news flashes, and very few or very little of those are positive. How does one take cognizance of the reality out there, however not allowing it to derail you of your vision and your positive mindset?
Yeah, Anton, that is you are starting off with a very complicated question. What I do is that I read widely. I take note of what is happening in the macro environment, but I don't fuss or worry about things I cannot control. I don't invest energy and time in worry and fear. I rather focus on the things that I can do something about. And what I've learned over the years is that action drives away fear. So the minute I start feeling some anxiety, I do something that will make tomorrow better than today. So that is my advice. Don't be a naive optimist, be well informed, but remain committed to your own sense of purpose. And that is the wonderful thing, that in particular in tough times, you needn't wait 1 second to do good, to touch a heart, to make a difference. The needs out there are overwhelming. And in my experience, if you get involved, if you do something that will uplift your spirit, you will also meet other people with a similar inclination. And then it will develop into an inspirational experience. But Anton, may I touch on another issue? Because when you briefed me, you asked me to say something about the balance between the hard and the soft from a leadership perspective. How does one strike the right balance between discipline and warmth? Because times are tough, you need to attain the results, but at the same time, you want to demonstrate to your people that you care. So my advice is lead with a firm hand, but with a gentle touch. My advice is be hard-headed when it comes to results, but have a gentle heart when it comes to people. And the best way to illustrate that approach is through your own personal example. So that is my recommendation to you. Your people must see and observe that their leader is totally committed to the attainment of the results, but at the same time, they must say, my leader also has a gentle heart.
Thank you very much, Brunt. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still learning the electronic platform and what it has to offer. Jacques indicated that on your control panel where it shows the microphone, the video camera option, there's a little hand which if you would click on that, I think it would be like back in school raising your hand. So if there are any questions you would like to pose, maybe just click on the small icon with the hand and we'll afford anyone the opportunity for a question.
Hier is 'n vraag gewees hierso.
Op die tekstbox.
Please ask Philip Michelle. Please ask Brad to comment on about team versus individual leadership.
Brant, there's a question from Philip Michelle asking the contribution of an individual compared to the power of a team. And what is your perspective on that? We often hear the expression the power of one, or it takes an initial individual to get the momentum going. So what is your view on that?
Well, firstly, if I had known that Philip was also listening, I would have asked him to rather take my place, because Philip, wonderful to hear from you, and as Philip knows, I respect him greatly. He did a fantastic job at Imperial. So, but Philip, thank you for your question. And my view is that ultimately the effectiveness of the team will make the big difference. But the team will only be effective provided there's a unifying vision and provided there's inspirational leadership. So it's up to the leader to firstly establish quality relationships at the personal level with every team member, to find out exactly what needs to be done to keep that team member motivated and inspired. And then, once all those personal relationships are well entrenched and based on mutual trust and respect, then the leader can start leading with confidence. Common vision, shared values, objectives that are aligned, rewards that are encouraging the team members to attain their objectives. So without the team, the leader can do nothing. But the opposite is also true, that should there not be focused, well-orchestrated leadership, a lot of energy will be wasted. There will be no coordination, just fragmented effort. So the leader depends on the followers, and the followers need clear direction and quality leadership. I hope that will answer your question.
Thank you very much, Brant. Ladies and gentlemen, an opportunity for a last question. Brant, I think when there are no questions asked, it's either that people are totally overwhelmed, or you did a sterling job and you left no uncertainty in terms of how we need to deal with this very uncertain time.
I hope that towards the end of the presentation that we still had an audience, because but I think everybody now deserves at least one cup of coffee.